So I left you contemplating whether or not there are universal principles for ethics. Is there some universal sense of right and wrong, good and bad amongst humans? And I'm now going to present you with two arguments that says yes, indeed, there are universal principles of what's right and what's wrong, or at least reasons for us to act in certain ways. What's right and wrong. Ultimately, maybe there is no right and wrong, right? Like, is it right or wrong that the lion kills and eats the gazelle? It's just the law of the jungle, right? It's just a lion eating the gazelle. Is it right or wrong that we kill or eat the chicken? Is it right or wrong that the sun rises and sets? Is it right or wrong that the sun is eventually going to go supernova and destroy this entire planet? Granted, according to the scientists, that'll be a long, 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 long time in the future, right? But in nature, many can argue that there is no right or wrong. It just is, right? That there's birth and death and the great cycle of life and the grinding neat wheel of existence into which we are all thrown. And we eat chickens and the lion eats the gazelle. And ultimately, right, it's just the sun rising, the sun setting. It's just nature. Now, I'm also going to present you with some arguments of why it's in our own best interest to act in certain ways. And so that would lend us to think that yes, indeed, there is strong motivation for us to act in universal ways, right? There's a universal principle for acting in a certain way and in a pro-social way. And that's actually in our own best interest to act in an ethical way, a pro-social way, thinking of others. Because when we're moving along that spectrum of, one end only thinking of self, the other end thinking of others, somewhere here in the middle, it's in our best interest, right? So we could be thinking of self, right? We're here in the middle. We're thinking of self. It's in our own best interest to think of others, right? So why are ethics important? Well, if we didn't have any ethics, if it was just law of the jungle, survival of the fittest, it would be total chaos. And it would be anarchy, and people would have guns, and we'd just be all out for ourselves, and we wouldn't mind killing anybody to take whatever we wanted, and it would really be total uncontrolled chaos. And in some ways, this is where humans kind of trend sometimes, and we slip into conflict, and we slip into war, and situations can become really intense and awful, and a lot of harm and destruction can be done. The Great Wars, World War I, World War II. But then we realize, wow, this is really awful. We've killed hundreds of thousands, millions of people, and this sucks. And maybe the people who are the large instigators of it get taken out, like Hitler got taken out, or I think Stalin got taken out, or whatever, right? Maybe they get taken out. And then society trends back towards, let's live in a more socially interactive way where we all get along. We're not just having this survival of the fittest, law of the jungle, everybody out for themselves, killing each other, war, because that's really destructive. And ultimately, all of that conflict, war, snipers, bombs, right, that's going to have a negative effect on me. And so it's in our own best interest to try to get along with everybody, ultimately. And you can see, like in Mexico, in the last couple of years, 60,000 people have been killed by the Mexican drug cartels. And Mexico is not a place I want to go anymore. There was a time when, oh yeah, Mexico sounds cool. Get there fast, take it slow, like let's go to Mexico. That sounds awesome. Now I'm like, no, I don't want to cross the border. Not interested. I had the opportunity to go to Mexico a couple of years ago. I was like, I'm not going to do it. 2003, I was in Mexico. Went down there, went surfing. But now it's just a little bit too unstable. And so it's, they aren't living in more of a socially getting along kind of way. They're living in, more of a free-for-all in some places in Mexico. And so, yeah, I'm just going to stay away from it. So it's in our own best interest to think of others and to live in a socially, in a way socially that we all get along with each other. Otherwise, it's just chaos. And so I would argue that that's actually a universal principle. It's in our own selfish best interest not to have war, not to have chaos, not to have people running around with snipers, right? But to actually get along and work together. And look, I'll get my fruit and food from the farmer, and I'll teach his kids, and and somebody else will work on his truck, and we all just kind of work together and get along. It's in our own best interest. So that's the sort of social contract, it's in our best interest to get along and work together. So another argument for, universal principles of ethical behavior. and thinking of others is that pro-social behavior is good for us, and we'll look at that in the next video.